Hey, what's going on, y'all? We're back again, and we're actually going to get into some wrestling here, and it's actually going to be a couple of videos that I'm going to be coming to you with, and I'm doing it this way because originally I had done this, well, a video last night, which, for one, wound up being a little more extensive than I wanted it to be, and I just felt the need to make some changes to it, but of course, we've got other new stuff that has taken place since then, so just wanted to do a little bit of that and some of the new stuff, try to keep things fresh and have that rolling that way. But, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about NXT. Well, actually, this is going to be a rather NXT focused video. And I'm going to start specifically with Zarya, formerly known as Delta. Pretty cool stuff, actually, and I do have to preface everything I'm about to say by pointing out the fact that I still have to watch last night's NXT, and that's not so bad. I'm still playing a lot of catch-up with AEW right now, meaning I have not watched tonight's episode. I am aware of the Bobby Lashley debut, but that's stuff we're going to get into a whole nother time. But for right now, I just want to talk about it because, of course, I do tend to be on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, quite a bit. And I gotta say, just the optics, the visuals that I've gotten in terms of the 10-woman tag that we're going to be getting next Wednesday, a week from today specifically, with NXT once again going head-to-head with AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night, due to the election, of course. It's really, really interesting to me, more specifically because of the fact that not only did we have the visual of the 10 women involved, of course, on one side you have NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Fatal Influence, and on the other side you, of course, have Stephanie McCour, Julia, Zarya, and former North American Women's Champion Kalani Jordan. I don't know how I was about to botch that just now. Of course, we got a surprise 10th woman in the form of former Knockouts champion Jordan Grace, fresh off of having dropped said Knockouts title at Bound for Glory this past weekend. And it's just incredible to see. For one thing, it's good that we still have the working relationship between NXT and WWE and TNA, specifically WWE, NXT, and TNA. Although I imagine we'll still see some surprise appearances in, say, the Royal Rumble and so forth. But yeah, this was fun. And then, of course, you had the backstage segment, where you got a special surprise appearance from Rhea Ripley, and I think that in and of itself was fun to see. Just, again, even though I still actually have to watch the episode, but again, the pictures that I've seen so far, it is amazing because it gives you something really, really fun to look forward to on multiple levels. And again, if for no other reason, it's one of the reasons why I enjoy NXT just as much, if not more, than Raw, SmackDown, or even Dynamite in a lot of cases. They just find new ways to just keep a lot of these things going, and it doesn't just stay within NXT. It doesn't just cross over with TNA, it also involves the main roster, and it's just an amazing thing to see. But moving right along, I just want to get right into talking about, speaking of NXT and Rhea Ripley, just another visual that I got where Rhea was attacked in the parking lot by Women's World Champion Liv Morgan and her muscle of sorts, of course, longtime tag team partner Raquel Rodriguez, and of course she was beaten up and bloodied. It was real interesting given the fact that she was bloodied, and more specifically because over the history of this company as I know it, and just given the history of women's wrestling in general, especially over the last couple of decades, we'll say, it's just been really, really profound, because you don't really see women blade. Like, they're not, like, scripted, or I guess, how am I wanting to say, booked to ever do any sort of blood type of things. We've seen situations where there have been cases where women have bled, regardless of how that may have happened. But it's just real interesting to me to see this, because, you know, we're at a point to where you're seeing a lot of things, and I'm going to talk about this in my next video, where there's a lot of faction gang warfare going on. And I kind of have to wonder, obviously you're not going to see Damien get involved in any of this, just because of the male-female dynamic, especially where WWE is concerned, and just how they've danced around the whole intergender match thing, you know. For one thing, I do want to point out, I don't see that ever happening at any point, you know. Just, it's really hard for me to believe, because, again, I just can't say it enough. They've been doing more dancing around that than anything else. So any aspect of that that can actually be taken seriously, to the effect of one former Impact Wrestling champion in Tessa Blanchard, who took on and defeated quite a few men, obviously, to win said championship. But, you know, it'll never get treated the same way in WWE. Let's just get that out the way. But more than anything else, this is real interesting. I wanted to point out that this picture right here is from, also from Twitter, X, specifically Wrestling World CC, where there's also a quote from Rhea saying, "Mistake number one, you left me breathing," which is just, needless to say, kind of wild. And that's where, again, going into the whole faction thing, I don't know necessarily that I see that happening. I mean, obviously, Rhea, especially in character of sorts, is a really, really prideful person, and understandably so, and she's earned that right. But at the same time, again, as I'll talk about with the other video, you look at the situation with Roman and Jimmy, and how they've had to go looking to Jay for help, and whatever else they could manage out of that. And now Jay's going to be going back to SmackDown to talk to Roman, and yeah, we'll see how all that goes. Anyway, point being, it's going to be interesting to see if we get anyone teaming up with Rhea for this situation. I mean, who knows? I hope we see something like that. It would be cool. I gotta say, I can't talk enough about how much joy I'm finding in all this faction gang warfare. It's just amazing right now. But anyway, moving right along, we want to go into the main subject of the video. We're going to talk a little bit about Femi here. Yeah, there we go. I just had to make sure I got the picture up. Now, it turns out there were rumors about him being called up to the main roster after having lost his second straight match to Tony D'Angelo for the NXT North American Championship. Now, I really would have never been inclined to believe this, and it's real weird that people talked about him saying goodbyes after the show or whatever point it was in the night. But there's still an awful lot that can be done with Femi in NXT. And just the notion of him being called up, it's not at all far-fetched or anything like that. In fact, it would make a lot more sense than what you would be inclined to believe. The only thing about it is that it makes more sense after a run with the NXT Championship. It's even been stated on record that the belief is he's next in line for said NXT Championship after Trick Williams, as if anyone may be on the verge of a call-up, it's likely him. I feel like I still believe that before too long you're also going to be seeing Ethan Page on the main roster, specifically Monday Night Raw. But with Femi, this is going to end up being the franchise guy for probably the next couple of years. I mean, they could go a couple different directions. They may go with him, they may go with Wesley for a little bit, and maybe have it be Lee that Oba takes the title off of. I mean, I don't know. It's just, there are a number of different scenarios, and I would anticipate at some point that scenario specifically being Oba Femi as NXT champion. But that's where I'm at with that. Y'all know what it is. Let me know what y'all think. Like, share, and subscribe, and all that good groovy stuff. I'm AJ. I don't know how I did all that there just now, but of course there will be more.